my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and yes, it has finally happened. ColourPop has released a monochromatic all blue palette. This is the Blue Moon palette, and it is very blue. I am pre-filming this video, so hopefully I'll be able to get this out before the palette goes for sale. Because of that, this palette hasn't even been officially announced yet at the time I'm filming this. Hopefully it will be announced soon, and I will put the official launch date and time right here on the screen for you. I really want to get this video done so that I can have it edited in time for you to see it. I do know that this palette will be part of their permanent 9-pan monochromatic little family. It will be priced at $12 US. There are no eye safety warnings on any of this packaging. None of these are pressed pigments or pressed glitters. These are all completely eye safe. They are fully intended for eye use, so just put them all over your eyelids because that's what I did. Here is a close-up of the palette packaging, the Blue Moon packaging. Super cute. Notice the commitment to matching nails. And then on the back of the box and the back of the palette itself, we do see a cute little star-covered sticker with all the shade names. When you open up the palette here, of course, there is a nice big mirror, and all of the shade names are printed inside next to the shadows. Love that. There are 5 mattes and 4 shimmers in here, and this very top shade here called Lumi is a duochrome shimmer. It is a super pretty icy blue-white type of duochrome. There is not a single brown, not a single green, none of those greenish turquoise, greenish teal type of shades. ColourPop did drop a little breadcrumb for us in their Instagram stories. They put up a quiz question that was asking which color monochromatic palette they were missing from their collection, and the correct answer was blue, so they were hinting at this palette coming up. I asked on my Instagram post what your predictions would be about what they would come out with next. Here are a few pretty good guesses predicting this Blue Moon palette. My favorite one comes from my friend Jo on Instagram. She said they should make a blue palette and call it the Jo palette because she loves blue eyeshadow. I hope that she enjoys this palette, and in my mind now I'm gonna forever call it the Jo palette, but just in case I slip up, it is the Blue Moon palette. All right, let's get to the swatches. I am gonna be swatching all 9 shades on the inside of my arm with no primer down first, just the shadows straight onto my skin. I will be doing both finger and brush swatches. The finger swatches will be pictured on top, and then each corresponding brush swatch will be directly below. As with every single swatch video I do, my brush swatches are done with my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I clean the brush off in between each shade using my Veramona color switch so that there's no color transfer in between swatches. First up, we have the shade Lumi. This is definitely my favorite in the palette. It's a duochrome. Next up, 3 light mattes, Dabadi, Moonlight, and Starry Eyed. Then some really pretty shimmers. This silvery blue is called Billie Jean, a really bright primary blue called Tide Pool, and a deeper navy shimmer. This one's called Mad About You, another favorite in this palette for me. Lastly, we're rounding out with 2 deeper blue mattes. These are better performing mattes in the palette, in my opinion. The more primary matte blue is called Fine China, and then the really deep navy blue matte is Clued In. Now that you've seen all the swatches, I want to show you an eyeshadow tutorial using this Blue Moon palette. Full disclosure, I did have to pull in a couple shades from my Mar palette. I just couldn't deal with solid blue, solid cool tones. I really needed to pull in just a little bit of warmth. So I did grab 2 shades from my Mar palette. Let's take a look at that tutorial now, and then I will wrap up all my thoughts on this palette at the end. I'm starting off just like I start every single eye look by priming my eyes with my favorite eye base. It's the MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. Then I just set that eye base down with a little bit of setting powder. Now I'm going into the shade Dabadi. This is the matte Periwinkle Blue. I started off by putting a little bit of that into my crease to act as a sort of transition shade. Then I used my finger to pat the shade all over my lid and try to build it up to be really, really opaque. If I was going to have an all over lid color, I would have just left my eye base sticky, but this just would not blend and build up perfectly no matter what I did. So I am going to start layering some other shades in. I used Clued In first. As I added Clued In on top of Dappa D, I noticed that the shade was staying on my lid a lot better, but it was sort of blending away my previous color. I attempted to blend them together, but it just sort of made matters worse. So I used Mad About You on my finger, and these shimmers apply so easily and so beautifully. This is saving my look. Then I used Lumi, which is my favorite shade in the palette, and swept that all over my look. Then I decided to pull in some warmth. This is Sorbet from the Mar palette, all along the lower lash line, and I also worked that into my crease to warm up the rest of the look just a little bit there. This really helped to pull everything together. Then I used the dark brown top down as a faux liner along the upper and a little bit along my lower lashes as well, just for a little bit more depth, a little bit more dramatic look. Curled my lashes, added some of my L'Oreal Lash Paradise mascara, and that's the finished look. I think once I pulled in some warm tones, it really pulled the look together. I think that pastel blue just isn't for me because as soon as I went in with the shimmers, the duochrome, the deeper shades, the warmer shades, I absolutely love the way this look turned out. I never like blue eyeshadow, and I actually really am feeling this look. I have mixed emotions about this palette. I will say my main complaint with the main Squeeze palette, the red monochromatic palette, was that too many of the shades were too similar and I felt like I wasn't getting a lot of variety. I couldn't get any variation of looks. I think they did a great job with this palette, very much like the Just My Luck palette. Everything in here is different. I do think you could get a lot of different blue eye looks using this palette. This duochrome, a silvery blue, a periwinkle, a pastel, some really like bright primary blues, some deeper royal navy type of blues. They really did a great job of keeping it very blue. A lot of people were expecting these to be more like greenish toned, like the blues in the Mar palette. This is blue, girl, okay? This is very blue. There's a good variety. Not mad at that at all. I personally struggled with kind of two things. One of them is just a personal preference. I don't like a super cool tone, very blue eye. I don't think it's flattering on me. It doesn't fit my style. And that's why I had to pull in some of those warm neutrals from the Mar palette. I'm not mad about having to do that. I do think these make great companion palettes. And I have plenty of warm neutrals. We all have plenty of warm neutrals. So I'm not mad about having to pull in a shade that's not in this palette. I'm fine with that. But I personally am not gonna get a look that I like using just this palette. My other problem with this was the mattes, particularly these lighter mattes, were just not my favorite formula-wise. I didn't get a great opacity. I didn't get a great blend. I felt like as I was building them up and trying to blend them together, when I laid down this periwinkle shade, Dappa D, and then I tried to add Clued In on the outer corners, I felt like they weren't blending together. They were kind of blending each other away. And I think it's pretty commonly accepted that pastel shades are generally very tough to formulate, and I just didn't have a wonderful time working with these light colored mattes. I think the shimmers in here are stunning. I love the combination of Lumi and Mad About You that I have on my lids. I think Billie Jean is a beautiful color. I definitely see myself wearing this, especially with some like mauve-y tones and pulling in that silvery shade. I think all the shimmers are really, really good, and I think the darker mattes perform better than the lighter mattes. Just something to think about. I don't think that it's necessarily terrible that they're not super opaque on first application, because that will make them easier to work with. I know even for somebody who has practiced with eyeshadow a lot and has experimented a lot, I find it difficult to work with super pigmented, bright, bold, or really dark colors. So I don't mind a buildable shadow, especially if it's a color like blue that I really kind of have to finesse. But I do want to make you aware of that. Struggled a little bit with the mattes, but the shimmers are bomb. I love that duochrome called Lumi. It's such a cool transforming shade. Anytime I've mixed it with any of the colors in here, it's automatically elevated my look. I would love to see Lumi sold as a single. I do want to give you a quick comparison of one of the blue shades from the Mar palette. This matte deep blue up here, this one's called Detour. This is the only shade in the Mar palette that's similar to any in this Blue Moon palette. These other two shades are way more green toned. So I'm going to compare Detour to these two darker matte blues in the Blue Moon palette. This is Fine China and Clued In from the Blue Moon palette, and right in between here you see Detour from the Mar palette. I think this one is more similar to Clued In. It's just a little bit lighter. It's sort of like a mixture between these two. Detour is a little bit warmer and a little bit deeper than Fine China, and it's a little bit lighter, sort of same family, but just a step down in depth from Clued In. I really love how this Blue Moon palette works with the Mar palette. I am somebody that wants a little bit of warmth brought into my looks. I just think that suits my complexion and my overall like preferred makeup aesthetic a little bit better. So when I do wear shades from this palette, which I absolutely will, I am going to be pulling in either the Mar palette or maybe even like my Just Peachy Mattes palette from Too Faced to bring a little bit of warmth. Overall though, I do think this is a great release from ColourPop. Just because this palette on its own isn't my cup of tea doesn't mean I think it's bad. I think it's a fun release. It's something people have been looking for, and it's something that's really missing in the ColourPop palette line. To be honest, I really like the way that this makeup turned out. I'm surprised, especially when I first started off filming that eyeshadow look. I thought, oh no, this is gonna look like I got punched in the face. But once I brought those warm browns in, it just looks, I think, really rich, really beautiful, and honestly, really wearable. And I'm not somebody that's all out for blue. So that just goes to show you that once you put that Lumi shade on, you'll like your look no matter what. I would love to hear what you think about this palette. Is this something you're interested in? Are you somebody that really loves a blue, cool toned, like really monochromatic look? Or are you like me, you're gonna be grabbing your Mar palette, maybe even the Soul palette to add a little bit of warmth? I always love to hear what you think about things. Let me know. What's your take on the Blue Moon palette? And as always, thank you so very much for watching, spending just a little bit of your day here with me. I truly appreciate you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. So hopefully you get okay, time to regroup. It's fine. Let's just do a little research, shall we? There are on a scale of 1 to UFC, how much does this look like I got punched in the face? I'm shooting for like a 5 or below. When I first just this nailing it, and then eat. How many times? What are you? I don't know what that was, but look how well my nails match Tide Pool. You're gonna go full what, ma'am? Like, I have not gotten through one sentence without stumbling over my words. Regroup, deep breaths. You got this. I'm blue, da ba dee da ba da. Oh, I probably have to edit that out so that I don't get like copyright claimed. What? Wouldn't that be the day? They would just strike my video because I'm a terrible singer. You ruined a song that was already a little bit of a joke. I painted my nails to match Tide Pool and then I didn't even use that shade in my look. People are gonna be like, why didn't you at least compare them? Trust me, they're not the same. They're not the same. Now I need ColourPop to announce this palette so that I can share this video because I'm really excited about it. Okay, have a great day. All right, bye.